At this very moment, somewhere deep in a colossus of American sea power cuts through the swell. It carries an arsenal of such capable of vaporizing targets long before the enemy even registers a threat. Forget what you've seen in the movies. This is bleeding-edge lethality, already battle-tested. Within the last 12 months alone, 5 of these systems are so they have completely rewritten the rules of naval warfare. Beijing is watching. Moscow is calculating. And they are trembling. Here is the reason. The United States supercarriers have always remained of total military supremacy. But the true source of their invincibility isn't their tonnage or their nuclear hearts. It is what lies silent and waits inside their weapons bays. Technology has surged forward with such violence in a mere 2-year window that tactical doctrines from 5 years ago are now hopelessly archaic. In 2025, the Navy went at that most of the world believes is science fiction. These are not prototypes. They are live, locked onto airframes, patrolling the boiling waters of the South China Sea, from the Mediterranean to the volatile Red Sea. These 5 assets represent the apex of ever deployed on a floating fortress of war. Each one engineered to ensure American supremacy remains absolute. If you believe our military might is still unrivaled across the globe, declare your pride in the comms below. Let's rally for the warriors standing guard over our liberty. The AIM-174B Gunslinger. We begin with a weapon that didn't exist 3 years ago. Designation, AIM-174B. But the Navy calls it. That call sign isn't just for show. This missile is the air-to-air dominance ever mounted on an American fighter. We are defining a kill zone exceeding 300. That is triple the reach of the standard to our F-35 seconds and F-22. But here is the true nightmare scenario. The Gunslinger is born from the bloodline of the SM-6, a ship-launched Titan that has shielded our destroyers for a decade. Command stripped the booster, evolved the tech, and adapted so the FA-18 Super Hornet can wield it. Now, a solitary jet, we can unleash this beast from 300 miles out, neutralizing hostile boats long before they even smell the carrier. This weapon broke cover during the high-stakes RIMPAC in July 20. Intel captured Super Hornets off the USS Carl Vinson, hauling 2 of these absolute leviathans. Analysts dismissed it as a prototype run. Then the Navy dropped the hammer. The AIM-174B is live, and it is lethal. They've forward deployed it to air wing staging right on the doorstep of the Taiwan Strait. The strategic implication: Beijing has been pushing their long-range dominance, fielding the PL-15 and PL-17 to force our carrier groups into the deep. The PL-15 kills at 120 miles. The AIM-174B obliterates that limit. It completely rewrites the rules of engagement. Now, America can blind Chinese early warning systems and sever their surveillance before their fighters can even acquire a lock. Take out those eyes, and their entire air defense doctrine crumbles. But this isn't just a dogfighter. The 174B devastates surface fleets and ground assets, packing a 140-pound warhead, triple the destruction, far beyond standard air-to-air ordnance, screaming through the sky at Mach 3.5. Interception isn't just unlikely. The Navy is already pushing a lethal, capable of hunting down hypersonic threat. That is the bleeding edge of warfare we are operating on. But here is the strategic reality. This missile doesn't just defend the fleet. It rewrites the geometry of the battlefield. Hostiles can no longer cower behind long-range air. Not anymore, because American air power can reach out and from ranges that defy their tactical simulation. Total dominance. Enter the F-35 Sea Lightning II, armed. Now, let's discuss the apex of naval. The F-35 Sea Lightning II, you know the platform, but the this beast was bred specifically for the deck of a supercarrier. Expanded wingspan, reinforced landing gear, and a tailhook engineered to survive the violence of the trap. But the true lethality isn't the airframe. It's the payload. By 2025, the Navy finalized the AGM-158C. The LRASM, long-range, anti-ship, a stealth cruise weapon designed to send enemy cap from over 200 miles out. The F-35C hauls two or ghosts them internally when radar invisibility is non-negotiable, and that dictates the LRASM doesn't beg for a GPS signal to find its mark. It hunts with thermal vision and onboard intelligence, isolating enemy hulls from even through the thickest fog of electronic warfare. Let the enemy try to jam the frequency. The missile doesn't blink. It is relentless. And because it strikes from the shadow of a stealth, the target never feels the blade until the fire engulfs them. The USS George Washington deployed its F-35Cs, teeth bared with turning the July 25 Talisman Sabre exercises into a warning. It marked the debut of this lethal in a live fire theater. Allies, Australia, the UK, watching the hierarchy of power shift. As American, F-35 second to stalk and obliterate surface targets, while remaining absolute ghosts. But understand this, the F-35C isn't just a bomber. It is an omniscient eye in the sky. Its radar and thermal optics strip the detecting threats across sea and air long before the enemy senses a predator. It then relays that death sentence to the fleet, to fighters, destroyers, even missiles. This is sensor fusion. It transforms every pilot into a battlefield commander. Beijing knows this. That is why they are desperate to... They may field their own stealth, but they are chasing a ghost. The F-35C is not a concept. Deployed across three right now, the USS Carl Vinson, the Abraham Lincoln, and the George Washington are projecting fifth-generation dominance across the Pacific. That is a concentration that no other nation dares to challenge. And the terrifying reality? The F-35C is evolving. Critical upgrades arriving in 2026 will expand its internal payload to 6 missiles. Hidden. That is a 50% increase in lethality without compromise. The enemies of freedom shouldn't just be, they should be trembling. Before we proceed take a split second to strike that like and secure your subscription. Over 98% of you are consuming this without signing on. It costs you absolutely nothing. But it empowers us to deploy more content. If you value the mission, show your support. Let's move out. RIM 116, the rolling airframe missile. Now, let's talk, because it doesn't matter how devastating your spear is. If you cannot shield the ship from the counterstrike, that is the mission of the RIM 116 rolling air. This is the carrier's final shield, the absolute last line, and it stands. Point Defense Systems, mankind, has every floating fortress in the U.S. From the battle-hardened Nimitz to the cutting edge, packs the firepower of at least 2 Mk-49 launchers. Each unit is locked and loaded with 21 RIM. Now, these aren't giants. They are calm and terrifyingly fast, but their true lethality lies in how they hunt. The RIM 116 employs a relentless dual-mode guidance system. First, it locks onto the enemy's own, the radio frequency of the... You see, most anti-ship weapons bleed to track us, but the RIM 116, it smells that fear and rides the beam straight down their throat. Then, in the critical final seconds before it switches to infrared meaning even if they try to jam our radar, there is no escape. The kill is guaranteed. The RIM 116 spirals violently as it flies. That is why they call it the rolling airframe missile. That rotation allows for a leaner, strict guidance package, making it faster to launch and cheaper to build. But do not mistake efficiency. This thing is devastation incarnate. Just look at the recent hellfire in the Red Sea. Naval destroyers armed with 116 have obliterated swarms of Houthi drones and hostile cruise missiles. Take the USS, she unleashed a volley deep in the Pacific theater during live-fire combat drills. They don't just work, they neutralize the threat. But a carrier's survival isn't pinned solely on the RIM 116. They also wield the Phalanx close-in weapon system, a radar-guided Gatling cannon, spitting 20 mm at a blistering rate of fire. If a hostile bogey breaches the RIM 116 perimeter, the Phalanx shreds it. Combined, these systems forge an iron dome, encircling creating a kill zone nothing can survive. The Navy is now overhauling the destroyer fleet, swapping out aging Phalanx units for heavy RIM 116 launch bags. That is the ultimate testament to its lethality. When you need to stop a supersonic screaming in at Mach 2, you pray for the 116 to have your say. Our sailors drill on these systems relentlessly. They run simulations and live-fire kill chains, ensuring that when the real threat appears, they are ready. That discipline is what it is, the iron shield of the fleet, the reason no adversary has ever managed to send a U.S. carrier to the bottom in combat. Enter the evolved Block 2, an unsung hero in our arsenal, yet absolutely vital for survival. The ESSM Block 2, this medium-range interceptor, acts as the second line of defense, neutralizing incoming death, long before it breaches the Rim 1-1 inner perimeter. With a kill zone extending 30 miles out, it engages the full spectrum of aerial warfare. Cruise missiles, hot suicide drones. The Sparrow terminates them all. But the true game is its active radar guidance. Predecessors relied on the ship's illumination to paint the target until impact. Block 2 hunts on its own terms. This allows the carrier to unleash a salvo at multiple boats without blinding the ship's primary sensors. Armed with Mk-29 launchers, each racking 8 lethal interceptors, these batteries are strategically positioned to ensure an impenetrable 360. When a hostile anti-ship missile hugs the deck, the ESSM dives to meet the threat head-on, skimming mere inches above the chopping swell. We call this sea skimming. It is the ultimate countermeasure to lethal Russian and Chinese cruise that hide in the radar shadow to escape detection. Since achieving operational status in 2020, the Block 2 has become the shield of the entire NATO alliance. The implication: American carriers fuse seamlessly with allies, sharing kill chain data in absolute. If a European destroyer, it instantly uplinks coordinates, allowing us to launch the ESSM and obliterate the threat before it breaches the horizon. This level of lethal is a nightmare. Our adversaries, simply Beijing and Moscow, fight in isolation. They lack the trust and the integration to synchronize fire across a dispersed fleet. We dominate the spectrum, giving us the decisive edge. In live-fire combat trials, the ESSM Block 2 executed a near-flawless kill ratio. We are confirming 29 intercepts out of 30 launches. That creates a zone of unmatched invulnerability. And for a $13 billion sovereign asset, carrying 5,000 souls into the fight. In the theater of war, enter the F/A-18E F Super Hornet. Finally, let us discuss the undisputed iron will of carrier, the F/A-18E F Super Hornet. For decades, this beast has been the spine, holding the line for over 20 years. But make no mistake, the Block 3 dominating is a different breed entirely. From the legacy metal that first launched in the early 2000s, it has been reborn, infused with tech that stares down 5th-generation ghosts. The Block 3 boasts a glass cockpit system, radically upgraded, extended range conformal fuel, and a ghost-like reduced radar, but its true power, that lies in the payload. Beyond the massive AIM-174B we just debriefed, the Super Hornet hauls the AIM-120 AMRAAM interceptors, the deadly AIM-9X sidewall, and the crushing Joint Strike Missile. The 120D brings death from over 100 miles out, utilizing a neural network of data to hunt and mid-flight. Then there's the 9X, the most ruthless, air-to-air connect. It defies physics, turning even those daring to chase from behind. And, finally, a silent predator. Built to liquefy ground assets and striking with impunity from over 180, but the Super Hornets lies in its absolute versatility. It owns the skies, it delivers close air support and masters it even acts as a lifeline. Aerial, some Hornets are rigged purely as tankers, extending the lethal reach of the. That means and their wingmen can push deeper and stay in the kill box longer. In 2025, the Navy secured 191 next-gen F-35s, but the Super Hornet, it isn't retreating. The Navy will keep these upgraded Block 3 Titans well into the 2040s. The question is, because they deliver. They are forged in battle, and revered by the aviators who fly them. During the high-tension operations in the Red Sea, Super Hornets launching from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower clocked 15,000 combat hours. 0 losses. They intercepted Houthi drones, obliterated ground targets, and formed an iron shield over that is raw that no computer simulation can replicate. And here is the intel most civilians miss. The Super Hornet is evolving into a deadlier beast. The Navy is field testing new conformal fuel that will extend its range by 30%. New electronic warfare will give it even better jamming and detection capabilities. And integration with the MQ-25 Stingray drone reef will allow it to operate hundreds of miles farther from the carrier than ever before. Our enemies are watching, and they know they can't keep. That's why they resort to propaganda and threats. But when it comes to actual capability, America is decades ahead. Conclusion. So there you have it. 5 weapons that are operational on U.S. aircraft carriers. The AIM-174 Gunslinger, with its 300-mile reach, the F-35C Lightning II carrying stealth cruise missiles, the RIM-116 rolling airframe defending against incoming threats, the evolved Sea Sparrow providing layered defense, and the Super Hornet Block 3, the most versatile fighter jet on the planet. These aren't concept weapons. These aren't prototypes sitting in a lab. These are real systems mounted on real aircraft, deployed on real carriers, operating in real combat zones right now. The men and women of the U.S. Navy train to operate these systems. They run drill, they study, they prepare, and when the time comes, they execute flawlessly. That's what makes our military the best in the world. Not just the technology, but the people behind it. China can build all the carriers they want. Russia can threaten all they like. But they don't have what we have. They don't have the experience, the training, or the technology. And that's why America's aircraft carriers remain the most powerful weapons on the planet. If you found this information valuable, smash that like button. And for more content like this, we cover the latest in military technology, defense strategy, and everything that keeps. Don't miss out. Stay proud. Stay informed. And never forget the people who make this possible.